welcome back to AWS On Air. If you're just tuning in, this is your opportunity to learn more about some of the recent launches that are happening here at reInvent. And I'm Shashank, and I have my co-host here with me, Chris. Woo!
Woo!
And we have two service experts here, Pete and Eli.
Yes.
Ellie.
Ellie,
Ellie.
go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Eli Garius. I'm a senior product manager for DynamoDB.
And I'm Pete Naylor. I'm another product manager on the same team with Ellie.
Awesome. So welcome, Pete and Ellie. And sorry for getting your name wrong the first time.
No worries.
It's early in the morning.
I know, I missed my coffee today. All right, so let's start with the announcement. What did we
Okay.
announce? Tell us about what we announced, and then we'll dig a little deeper into some of the technical details that our customers like to hear.
Okay, cool. So what Swami announced earlier today is the Amazon DynamoDB standard infrequent access table class. So it's a new DynamoDB table class that enables you, that helps customer reduce their storage cost by 60% for storing data that is infrequently accessed.
So before there was just one class.
So before, let's say we didn't choose to talk about classes, but there was
Right.
one type of tables, one
Yeah.
class of tables that are the existing standard DynamoDB or DynamoDB standard as we're calling it today. And now we have two classes, the other one being the DynamoDB standard infrequent access or DynamoDB standard IA for the use cases where data is less frequently accessed.
Okay, all right. So DynamoDB, big favorite service of many of
Yeah.
us. So when would we use the new storage class?
So the existing DynamoDB standard remains the default table class, and this is the table class for the majority of the use cases. Now, if you're into some use cases, and I can give some examples.
Yeah, please do.
So if you're storing data that is, over time, getting less frequently accessed. So let's say you have a retail online website, and you're storing your customer orders.
Right.
So your customers are most probably very frequently accessing their recent orders.
Right.
And not the older orders.
Not the ones from last year.
But you need to store them for them.
Yeah.
Because at one point in time, they would need to connect, check their orders,
Right.
get some product information, or maybe just repurchase the item. So with time, these older orders needs to be immediately available, but are very infrequently accessed. And you need to keep all this data at one place so that you can serve your customers and make at the same response times regardless of which data they're accessing. And this is where standard infrequent access is the right table class for you.
That's so cool. Now, Dynamo's been around for a while. Is this a big change under the hood? How difficult, how hard were you guys working to deliver this?
Well, I think it's probably worth calling out all the team, the work that the
Huge
engineering
effort
team
from
has
the
done,
team, I
right?
imagine,
mean,
yeah.
This is a really big
Yeah.
thing for us. A lot of work went into it. So now we're just moving into that phase of letting everybody know and helping the customers actually adopt it and use it where it applies. So it's been a lot of work. Yeah,
Exactly.
DynamoDB's been around since January of 2012.
Yeah.
And this is certainly one
Wow.
of the bigger changes that we've made.
So Pete, are you saying I should immediately run out and switch all my tables to the new class?
No, I
No.
think
Because I will. I will.
No, I think we're going to have a certain subset of use cases that make sense for standard IA. A lot of cases where, as Ellie said, the data set grows over time, maybe grows steadily. The data set might have grown to hundreds of gigabytes over 5 years or so, right? And some of those use cases, customers are going to be able to go back and do the math and figure out that actually standard IA is going to save them a lot of money. So it's not going to make sense, for example, for a new table.
Right.
In the console, we give the option to create a new table in standard IA table class. But at that point, it has no data in it.
Right.
So you're not really saving on storage. And also, for a lot of tables, the life cycle is such that the first thing you're going to do is do a ton of writes. You're going to ingest a lot of data.
Yeah.
In many cases, though, after that bulk ingestion, you're going to have all of that data sitting there and relatively infrequent or low throughput reads and writes. So that's when switching to standard IA would make a lot of sense.
Cool.
So I have a question. Did customers come and tell you they wanted this specific thing, or did they express some challenges that caused you to build this capability?
The challenges were exactly the ones we were talking about. Like customers saw their storage becoming the dominant cost of their tables, and they like themselves noticed that like sometimes 70 or 80% of the tables they're storing are being very infrequently accessed.
Right.
And they started looking for solutions. So obviously, currently the solutions were like deleting the data, but by deleting it, you might be deleting it too early or missing on some value in the data when deleting it. Or splitting the data between DynamoDB, like keeping just the hot data, highly frequently accessed data in DynamoDB, and putting the infrequently accessed data in other alternative storage costs like S3.
Right.
But this was was not without the complexity
Right.
of managing
Moving
the
back and
split
forth
of
between
data,
services.
updating your application so that you can access the data in
Right.
two different service points. And this is the other advantages of DynamoDB standard IA, is that you can keep all your data in one table, so it's just a few clicks to switch the table to the right table class based on your use case. So there's no trade-off to performance. You're still having the same performance, availability, durability, scalability of the standard DynamoDB tables. And the last one is obviously there's no overhead. You don't need to update your application. There's no service interruption, so you can switch your table class without affecting the ongoing operations. It's just, it can be done in the background, and you can it can be totally transparent to your customers.
When you said no overhead, I think developers would be rejoicing. You said it's as easy as flipping a switch. We have a technical audience. Could you just talk about what are some of the changes? Is it just a console, something they changed in the console, an API in the CLI? What's the best way for them to go back and forth between?
You can update your class on the console. You can update it using the AWS SDK or CLI. You can also use AWS CloudFormation to manage your table classes. So as you said, it's as easy as toggling a radio button in the toggling a radio button in the console, or just making one API call to switch
Now,
the
but
table
before,
class.
I know there are people watching who are going to rush out and do this. So you said only specific use. So how would I know if I'm a good? If
who
I'm
should
a good
not
case?
use this?
That's a very important question. So what we're recommending, and there are other ways we'll also be talking about, but the first answer I would give is go to AWS Cost Explorer.
Okay.
Check your cost structure, the cost structure on your table. If storage is the dominant cost, that is, if storage is starting to exceed 50% of your total throughput cost, the cost of reads and writes, then do some simulations, because standard IA can help you save money on this table. So I guess the first step is go to AWS Cost Explorer and understand your table's cost structure. Because if storage is not the nominal cost, standard IA is not the right class for your table. And you should keep using standard.
Yeah.
Because standard is the most effective.
I used to be a member of the solutions architecture team, so I imagine you could also talk to your AWS solutions architect, and they could help you work out if it's the right thing for you to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then it's a matter of just flipping the switch, and you said I don't have to change anything about how my application works?
No, not at all. Just one point I want to add also. When you're analyzing your cost, because AWS Cost Explorer gives you access to your historical data.
Yep.
It's important to check the historical data, but mainly to make sure that the way data, your usage and throughput data and throughput usage on the table has a kind of steady pattern in the future. Because if it's fluctuating and you're not sure, like if storage is the dominant or throughput is the dominant, then there are some additional analysis we invite you to do. So back to your question, no, there's nothing to do on the application side. It's totally transparent to the application.
That's what we love to hear.
Interesting you mentioned that, because data needs keep changing too, right? I think if you don't need it today, then you may need it tomorrow. So you want to come back and checking in the Cost Explorer whether you're actually crossing the threshold in order to check this. Can you share anything about? I know DynamoDB has so many customers. It's one of our most popular services. Do you have a sense of how many customers, or what percentage of customers would actually want to use this or would benefit from it? Or is it a hard?
I cannot give you a percentage of customers, but I can give you some examples of some segments where we know that this is a common use case. Like if I gave the example of retail, this is one place where Like you want to store orders, and sometimes you want to store also millions of products. But as usual, like the Pareto law will apply. Like 20% of your products are the products that are making the business. So these are the products that are heavily accessed. And let's say 80% or 70% of your products are infrequently accessed, but you want to keep them all in one table. So retail is definitely a segment where standard IA can be beneficial in some use cases. Financial institution like banking, where you're storing historical transactions, sometimes for 5, 7, 8 years. This is another segment where it can be interesting. Gaming is a third one, because gamers need to keep their trophies. They're not accessing them every day, but once in a while they want to go back to show you their trophies. So they want them to be there. Social media platforms, like you have more than 290 million Snapchatters putting billions of snaps every day, but they're not accessing them. They're only accessing the recent. Yeah, I can go on in examples like.
I was going to say, I worked in an industry where users generated content, and so they very rarely need to go back to the old stuff. So I could see that being a massive win for them.
Like Disney users are creating every day billions of bookmarks.
Yeah.
But you don't access your bookmarks, like all your bookmarks every day.
Right.
That's another example.
Yeah, very cool.
I think perhaps
And how much can they save again? Just
60% on the storage.
Storage is 60% less in standard, so they can save up to 60% using DynamoDB standard IA if they have the right use case for.
But if throughput is a higher cost, then I stick with the existing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because standard offers like a 20% lower. DynamoDB standard offers a 20% lower throughput cost than DynamoDB standard IA. So if throughput is your dominant cost, you need to stick with DynamoDB standard.
So this is just another example of we're trying to save people money.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and really it comes down to, what we were seeing was customers and developers having to do some fairly unnatural things.
That's what we had to do, move records out.
And we want to make it simpler for them.
Yeah, jumping services. It's just more work for the developer compared to a radio button flip switch, right?
It's a way for customers to, again, we're getting the complexity out for customers and giving them a way to affordably benefit from DynamoDB thanks over their data life cycle. So that's what we try to do here.
I think one of the interesting possibilities is we do see customers who have a data model, a design where they actually roll through tables periodically. So maybe once a month they create a new table and they're doing all of their writes and their activities.
Just a lot of unnecessary work.
Overhead.
Yeah, well,
overhead.
I think this can combine very well with our on-demand capacity mode as well.
Yeah.
They might operate the current month in standard with provision capacity and auto-scaling, and then when they roll out, they want to keep that data around for sporadic uses, and they want the low latency of DynamoDB. So they can now roll that into standard IA and switch it to on-demand, and it's a very low-cost option for them.
And you said performance is the same. It's not like when I access one of those old rows, it takes longer.
Nope.
No, not at all.
Same latency. Yep, all of the same performance.
Same availability and same durability, so same.
I think we're almost out of time.
Yeah,
where can we learn more?
I know. So this is GA?
Yeah.
It's available right now.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay,
this is
awesome.
GA since 8:52 a.m. this morning.
Okay.
It announced Swami's keynote.
And are there any blog posts or other resources that folks can jump in and?
There is also a blog that published this morning.
Awesome.
Yeah,
nice.
We have a blog that was published. You can check the documentation. You can check the web pages. You can check the documentation, check the console to see the changes in the console.
Okay.
And start analyzing your table cost.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks. So
Thanks,
there you have it,
everybody.
folks. That was
Thank you very much.
DynamoDB Infrequent
LP.
Access. See you in the next stream.